Hi everyone, Trust here, Nigerian XJW Speaks. Although today I'm not sure I'm going to be talking about XJW content because, quite frankly, I've had other things on my mind, um, thoughts about what has been happening. I don't have any notes. I wasn't sure whether I was going to make a video today because of everything that's happening, plus the fact that we had the live stream on Sunday, which was brilliant. Yeah, thanks to everyone who was on there. If you were not on there, the next one is going to be the last Sunday of the month. So I have the monthly last Sunday of the month. I come on live and we chat about what's been happening, and it's some of the discussion that came off that, as well as thoughts on what's been happening. That I feel like you guys here are, we're family. We have a shared experience. We know what it's like to be in an organization that I guess is oppressive. There's no other way to put it. Your sense of self and your sense of self-worth is, you're not really sort of encouraged to develop that, to really see that. And so we have that shared experience. But then there's also the experience of um, black people globally. Now, I don't know what is the demographics of the people that watch me, and frankly, it doesn't matter, because if you are a former witness and you have left, like I said, there are shared experiences. So I just wanted to talk through some of the thoughts that I have. I'm not saying that it's exactly the same as what it's like. So from the name of my channel, you can tell I am Nigerian. Full Nigerian, born in Nigeria, grew up in Nigeria, and my experiences are completely different to the experience of an African American. I cannot even presume to fully understand what it's like to be one, because here's the thing. um, we read the books, we watch the movies, we see what happened. I think what's missing for a lot of people is the correlation of how you get from that to where we are now, and the understanding that woven within the fabric of the systems in itself, the institutions, and this is not just in America. This is global. Everywhere there was that sort of either colonization or slavery. Colonization is what I know the most about, because Africa was indeed colonized. Not Africa, Nigeria was colonized by the British, and I know the impact that I saw growing up. But going back to America, we are dealing with centuries of people being literally stolen from their homes and taken somewhere else where they were treated like dirt for hundreds and hundreds of years, where they lost their sense of identity, their pride, their history, their sense of value as a collective, you know, and being subjected to just being subservient. I have been trying to educate myself as much as possible, because I might be black, but like I said, I cannot presume to know what it's like to be an African American. So I have been trying to educate myself on some of the things that actually happened. Being treated as less than nothing, being completely dispensable, you know, and you know, being completely disempowered in front of their wives, the children, and vice versa, and just that knowing that you don't matter, and having to work and slave for a system that you're not going to benefit from, and that being, like I said, woven into the fabric of society. I mean, it's not that long ago, really, since people couldn't openly be racist. It's not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. Now there are a lot of things that are more covert, like what I believe we have in the US, in the UK where I live. It's more subtle. It's not okay to voice those things out loud. But within the structure of the societies, in terms of how wealth is distributed, in terms of how access to education is laid out, access to jobs, access to resources. If you have generations of being made to feel nothing, yes, I know that there's a lot that we can do in terms of sort of on a personal level, self-improvement, self-development, going against the grain, trying to change the narrative for yourself. And I'm all for that. I'm all for all that. I believe in the ability of a person to rise above their circumstances. I'm here for that, and I support that. At the same time, you cannot ignore centuries of being deprived, not having access to role models where you can see yourself not being represented. Children dream when they can see someone that they can see themselves in, someone that looks like them. When you have generations and generations of that stuff, when you can see people that look like you, that does something for your self-belief and for your self-confidence. And if you don't have that, and don't get me started on what's going on with the prison systems and the ratio, and actually looking through those numbers, does that really add up in terms of crime? Are they really committing that much crime compared to their counterparts? Do the research on that. It's not what it seems. And so, while, like I said, I am here for the individual bettering themselves, you cannot ignore decades, centuries of not even having a head start on how to go forward. And so, in my own case, getting personal, because that's what I do here. Here in the UK, I haven't experienced racism sort of to my face, but then that's not unusual for the UK, at least not as far as I have seen. I haven't experienced it to my face. Where I did experience it was in Belgium. When I lived in Belgium for a year, when I was in university, I'd gone to Belgium to do a placement. I had experiences to my face, people actually saying stuff to my face twice. And fortunately, it was water off a duck's back. Yes, at the time I was shocked. I was shocked that a grown adult person would actually say stuff like that to someone's face. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't stay up at night thinking about it. I know that that is not the case for my African American brothers and sisters who have to literally live in fear of being killed on a daily basis. And so, in terms of the response, what's happening in terms of everything going crazy, first of all, I think it's fantastic that there is solidarity on a global scale. People are protesting around the globe. I don't know if this has happened before, and so this is fantastic. I don't know what this means. I don't know what it's going to mean in terms of change, but there's mixed emotions as well. In terms of the damages that end up happening, and this is something I am looking into, and it's unfortunate that that's diverting the conversation. I don't know what the solution is going to be. Would I personally take that approach of burning things and looting? Personally, not. Hi, so I'm just inserting this little slot in here that I forgot to add. The fact that there are lots of videos coming out as well showing that there seem to be people that are planted in these places that's actually resulting in the escalations. So there are people, protesting peacefully. People planted come in, they get things going, they escalate stuff. They are throwing the first break and getting things out of hand. So there's that as well, that perhaps the media isn't quite showing. So that was just the insertion. Back to the video. Having said that, let's get real. Let's get real in terms of why this is happening. Yes, I know it's not the average Joe Blogs white guy who is, just trying to get on with his life, feed his kids, go to his job, or the average, Jane Blogs who set up a small business that's trying to fend for her family. It's probably not them. That's racist. That's causing issues. And so, is it fair that they have to lose their livelihoods? No. It's not fair. It's not right. But coming out of that and looking at the bigger picture, I'll be quicker to condemn this system that's got us here and that is still ongoing before I condemn that. Unpopular, maybe. I'm not saying that's what I would do, but that's how I feel. And so, um, solutions, just like we've come out of this religion, by hopefully doing research, addressing things that didn't sit right, and not being scared to look at the facts, not being scared to look at the solutions and where to go forward and where to do things differently. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Before I go into that, I said I would mention, the colonialism aspect of things. So, growing up in Nigeria, it was just in the year 1960 when Nigeria became an independent nation. So, it's not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. It's just 60 years, and you can still feel the impact of colonialism. In fact, there are people that will argue with you that technically, the country is still being pulled by the strings by the West. If you look at the people that have been in power, basically since then, it's just like a string of people from who the British put in place in the first place. We're still dealing with that. This is why we still have an issue with colorism, where the lighter you are, proximity to whiteness, the better you're going to be treated, the better you're going to be thought of. Even within Nigeria, we're still dealing with that. And I hear, in other African countries as well, that is still an issue, not just in Africa, even in places like Brazil, where you have quite a mixed population. Um, the lighter you are, the better access you have to things, proximity to whiteness. And so, you know, which I think explains why there is global reaction, global protest. And so, what I'm thinking, it's not like the witness faith where we could come out of it and try and forge a different life, live a different life. We're talking about something that is ubiquitous. There we go, and it's part of the very fabric itself. Even good people who mean well in their personal lives, they just happen to be white, and so they just happen to have the advantage of being what they are through nothing they've done differently, and they just don't see it because they haven't experienced it. And I get that. You don't know what you don't know. You can't see what you don't know how to see. And so education, just like we went about getting educated, doing research on what's really going on, I would encourage education to start with, so that there can be more allies to creating a fairer system, equality. Because here's the thing, this damage is sort of impacting everyone. And you hear the protesters saying no justice, no peace. As long as there are people who are continuing to feel like this, I hate to say it, but the privileged people, they're not going to be safe. You know, is it right? It's nuanced. So education, that's the first thing. And I have been very encouraged by the mix of people that have been out protesting. There are a lot of allies, people who are not black, but they're out there, putting themselves forward, um, literally putting themselves between the police force and their black friends, just physically being there, protecting them. And I see you guys, and I appreciate it. And goodness, that's fantastic. That's really good. And so, allies who are not silent, who are speaking up, who are educating themselves, acknowledging what it is they don't know, and not just getting comfortable in the status quo, but actually looking at how can things change. I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you. The other thing as well is, and this is not something that I've come up with myself. Um, it's using our power in terms of who we vote in, the people we put in power, putting people in power who are committed to changing things, who are not comfortable with the status quo, who will actually look at changing the system. It's going to take collective effort, global effort. I don't even know when it's going to change, because this thing is so rooted in. And whenever I have these conversations with friends, I say we're not far enough yet from those times. We're simply not far enough yet, and I don't know when it's going to change, when we're going to be far enough. I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime, you know, but we can keep taking small steps forward by putting people in power who have the same agenda, who are willing to look at the problems sort of deep down and what is it about the systems that make this happen over and over and over again. You know, this is not the first time people have protested. There have been peaceful protests, you know, back in the 60s. But like, people taking the knee, none of that's made a difference. Now it's gone all crazy and everyone's talking about it. It's not right that this is what it takes, but here we are. So putting people in power who are invested in making a change, in making a difference. Personally, as well, I am giving some thought to who I support in terms of my money, where I spend my money, spending it with people who are committed to change as well, and helping to diversify the resources. You know, if you look back, this is some research that I've been doing recently. You can see there's a handful of families, you know, that have had key positions for generations, right back from the time when their great grandfather was slave owners, and that wealth has stayed there, and that privilege is there. Actually, looking at where I spend my money and how can I help that diversify. So, and then hopefully, maybe we can get to a point where we don't have to talk about this. But we're not there yet. Unfortunately, we are simply not there yet. And people can't shut up about it because this is their lives on a daily basis. And that's what it is. So, those are my thoughts. Not a JW one today. I did find a way to sort of correlate it, but hey, here we are. So I'll see you on the next one. I'm going to put a video here for you to watch next and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next week.